It's been another week with new releases in the K-pop world, with a variety of songs catching the eyes and ears of fans. Today, we want to analyze some of the marketing strategies behind K-pop idols' song releases. And we'll do that with the expert in this field, Jeff Benjamin, a contributor to Billboard, Forbes, Rolling Stone, and more. Hello, Jeff.
Hi, Jeff.
Hello, good to see you guys.
Good to see you. Now, let's first start with who released what in the past week.
Yeah, well, it's been an exciting week for sure. We've had the debut of JYP Entertainment's new boy band, KickFlip. Also, a former JYP boy band, GOT7, released on the same day. So it's a very exciting day on January 20th. Zero Base One, who are, of course, topping the charts for the past couple of years, released their pre-release single called Doctor Doctor. And there's been a lot of great music from artists like BB Girls, One Us. It's been an exciting time as of lately.
So, Jeff, let's talk a little bit about this new boy band by JYP. What is your first impression of KickFlip? What do you think are their strengths?
Well, when I saw KickFlip, I had heard about them beforehand, and I was told to have very high expectations. And I have to say, I think they're bringing a lot of elements of past JYP boy bands that we've all loved and bringing it to kind of a next generation. To me, they kind of have that bright, fun side that we saw from GOT7 in a song like Just Right, but they also have a bit of that edge, a bit of that, rebelliousness that we know from Stray Kids. KickFlip said that they look up to Stray Kids as role models. So it's kind of bringing all these elements into one. And personally, I really hope that we get to see their skateboarding skills. They've kind of teased this a little bit, but I have high hopes for them. And I have high hopes for their first song that we're watching right now. I think it could be kind of the sleeper breakout hit for rookie groups this year.
There's probably a reason for why they are called KickFlip. So I'm also looking forward to those skateboarding skills.
Yes, and of course their songs and their activities as well. Now we're going to move on to talking about girl group. Girl group IVE have wrapped up their 11-month world tour. And they've been topping charts globally with their new song, latest song, Rebel Heart. And they will actually return with a new mini album on February 3rd. What's your take on the song, and what's your expectation for the new album as well?
Yeah, Rebel Heart is such a catchy song, right? I was reading that it was co-written by several very famous European songwriters. So it's a new kind of style for IVE, and it's very anthemic, but I also think it's a very good fit for them. These girls have gone through so much. They've gone through so much in the spotlight. There's lyrics like, love me, hate me, you will never be me. I just think, it's such a great attitude. And something that I love in particular about this release was the music video, because I felt like we almost saw them being a bit rebellious in the way that they are not the traditional beauties. They're showing different sides of themselves. I'm really, really loving this attitude. And I feel like this album is maybe gonna let us into their psyche and what they're thinking about and maybe how they're feeling on the inside. So I'm super excited for the album in particular.
All right, so we just mentioned IVE, which also had a pre-released single first, and then they're going to release their album next month. So let's get deeper into that pre-release strategy or concept, which is known as 선공개 here in Korea. It's become the norm for K-pop stars to first have a single released and then followed by an album release. So how effective is this marketing strategy? And also, is there something different to it compared to releases elsewhere in the world?
Yeah, it's interesting that you're bringing this up, because I think for a little bit of a time, this idea of a pre-release single was almost kind of like the unofficial start to an era with K-pop. Many times pre-releases were not promoted. It might have just been a digital release, or we might have not seen promotions. Now it's like kickstarting the era, very similar to what we see with, what I'm, used to with Western artists, or what had happened in the past, where kind of that first single will dictate, where the album goes, where the artist is going with their era. I think the biggest difference to me is that, pre-release is almost saying, it's the first song, but we're gonna, the album is still planned. Sometimes if an artist's first single in the US doesn't go well, they might change their whole strategy or they might go away again. And, K-pop artists are very confident with their sounds. So I think it's ultimately a cool strategy that we get these, multiple singles and multiple tracks to be promoted. It's not just about putting out one song and then we never get to see anything from the other tracks.
That's interesting. Now, Jeff, what's also interesting is that we are seeing longer teaser and promotion periods, but the active periods, the so-called active periods, are getting shorter. Why is that?
Yeah, well, I'm not planning the marketing for these groups, but I've definitely noticed that too. I remember personally when I started getting into K-pop, some groups would promote for 2 months. Now we're lucky if you get 2 weeks.
Right.
And on one hand, I think this kind of speaks to, of course, the healthiness of the K-pop industry, the fact that so many artists, want to be active, want to be promoting, want to be on these shows. But also, it's also very saturated and it's very difficult to kind of stand out. So I think, they kind of go hand in hand that while you might not be as active in Korea, more and more, of course, of these artists are going beyond Korea, whether that's through international tours or doing more international phone calls, fan calls. Things like these are kind of extending the promotional periods in longer ways, even if we're not seeing them, on television every day.
I see. So probably, although the active periods are shorter, they are busy all the time with all these promotions.
That's why it always feels like, they're working 24/7, 365 days a year, right? Because they're always so active in different categories. And we did talk about, the pre-release strategy. I want to, mention if there's any other mentionable marketing, strategies or marketing trends in K-pop industry.
Yeah, well, these days it's been really interesting to me to watch, seeing more and more K-pop artists, especially when they're coming to the US, go to more cities and especially smaller cities. Back in the day, I'm very lucky because I'm based in New York City. So usually I got to see, an artist because they would maybe go to New York City, LA, and sometimes that was it. But more and more artists are going to secondary markets, third markets that are smaller, but still definitely have a big audience and fans that want to see them. Just recently, the very young rookie group from FNC Entertainment, &1, they announced 19 cities that they're visiting during their tour, including multiple cities in the same state sometimes. And I think that's a really good strategy because this group, like we said, they might not have a lot of chances maybe on K-pop television or traditional Korean TV, but they're trying to make the most of their time in the US by visiting as many cities as they can. So to me, I think that's a really great strategy. And I think we also see it in the media approach that many times, from my experiences, K-pop acts, of course, you want to have the biggest outlets, you want to have the biggest promotional opportunities, but the reality is just like every artist, not everyone can be on every magazine cover or every television show. So, starting smaller or going with more creative ways of marketing, on your social media or trying to talk to new outlets, new reporters, whatever it might be. These strategies, everything is getting more fresh, more creative. And I think it's a great thing because even if there are more and more artists, being active and trying to reach those global heights, everyone has their own path, right? And everyone can do it their own way. And no one needs to do what everyone else did. To be honest, I felt like BTS was always really good early in their career about trying new strategies and trying new things. So I always just encourage everyone to follow their own path, no matter what.
But amid these strategies, Jeff, do you think there are any factors that might need more room for improvement regarding these strategies?
Oh, well, it probably is a bit of like being more open-minded, kind of what I was saying before. Sometimes there's a lot of rigidness between, maybe the ways that things are done in one country versus another country. And a big part of my career has always been, how do we find a way to work together? Sometimes I've just had just a lot of pushback, or I've had, editors who aren't as familiar with K-pop or, TV shows, whoever it might be. they get very turned off by working with, certain companies or teams just because of, there's a lot of misunderstandings and there's not a lot of willingness to work together and be flexible. So my biggest thing is that hopefully everyone will be flexible, will work together and understand that, just not always expecting everyone to fall the same way everyone else does.
So being open-minded, creative, and flexible, I guess. So thank you very much, Jeff, for your insights today. Can't wait for our next talk.
Oh, yes. Thank you, guys. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Although not holidays for you there. And Bella, thank you for your contributions throughout the week. But yes, happy Lunar New Year holiday to you. We will see you back next Friday, right?
Yes, I will see you back next Friday. And 새해 복 많이 받으세요.
새해 복 많이 받으세요.